never did. Well, anyway, it's ready and it's on. So we'll just kind of listen and eat at the same time, you know.
It's on now?
It's ready when they come in and that's here now.
When I leave this,
Just leave it there, I'll clean it, because I'm gonna clean it. I'll clean it. Gotta take its grounds out, and you know, all that good stuff. We can do that later.
all right, you don't want me to do it?
I don't know if they started the audio yet. Well,
Just flash.
test speaker.
Here's some voice.
I did too. Nope, nope, nothing. Hmm. Everything is, I'm trying to get it to, Did you ask Jackie if there's sound for today's meeting?
And the last is, and I'll go really quickly, the town's plans, if any, for Lot A. Brought it up a couple of times. It's a significant piece of property. I know it's not buildable. It's become part of a piece of 242. But it's potentially usable to the town for something. And I'd just like to understand what, if anything, we ever intend to do about it, or if we do nothing about it, whether there's gonna be any consideration to the town or not doing anything with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, all right, let's continue with the agenda. Ready, Heidi?
Absolutely, thank you. If commission recalls, last year we met in April to start the process of defining strategic priorities. During that meeting, we came up with four: beach resilience and resiliency, fiscal responsibility, public infrastructure, and public safety. It was these four strategic priorities that led to the building of our budget this past and current fiscal year. And we would like to have this discussion again to see how we can continue to build upon those projects. On page 1 of your agenda memo, I have a very broad overview of each project that came out of this process last year and the strategic priority that it falls under. And then on page 2 of your memo, I give a little snapshot, and my apologies, it says fiscal year 2026 snapshot. It should be calendar year 2025 snapshot. During the last calendar year, and this is important because this is what leads to our ad valorem taxes. We had 11 properties sell here in the community. Of that, $47 million in sale value. That does not relate to assessed value, but it kind of shows you what our market looks like for 11 properties at 47 million. Currently, 3 of the 11 properties receive homestead exemptions. That doesn't necessarily mean that they won't in the future or they won't by the end of this month. And we had 4 major construction projects receive a certificate of occupancy. Their valuation for their construction projects was 4.6 million. This included 2 new home constructions, 1 addition, and 1 renovation. So looking to the future, we really need to look in the lens of what may or may not happen with property taxes in Florida. Right now, as I shared with you last week through our consultant, if there's a special session possibly coming up, but there's really no guarantee on what's going to happen with property taxes. We are of the belief something will happen. It might not be as extreme. And then remember, whatever happens needs to go to the voters in November as a ballot question. Current polling shows that the residents of Florida are not that favorable to eliminating property taxes. You need 60% for the ballot measure to pass at the state level. So the trending is showing that that might happen. That can change next week. There's no way to know what is going to happen. But with that being said, my recommendation to the commission is to take a conservative approach to budgeting in this coming fiscal year. As you've seen in all of your reports and all of our meetings and discussions, we've been very busy this year doing both infrastructure as well as cleanup of operations, kind of getting our house in order as well as our public spaces. I think this coming year, especially with the Resilience Action Plan coming out in September, we'll have a opportunity to go after grant funding for studies or perhaps implementation projects, and that we really should put our energy into doing that. Maybe some small infrastructure projects, but not take on anything too big. We need to start baselining our budget in case there is a change to property taxes. And let's be honest, something's going to happen. We just don't know what it's going to look like. The appetite's there in Tallahassee, whether it's a phase out completely, which is what scares us, or if it's just adding another 50,000 or 25,000 to homestead. But a lot can happen in between that when you have such a small tax base as we do. So that's my recommendation. You have in front of you a worksheet that I prepared, and it takes all 4 of these categories I have added in what we have come up with for both budgeting and programming from a staff perspective. And I think our time would be well spent today before our 6 o'clock meeting to discuss any ideas you discuss amongst yourselves, because what happens next? We start pricing things out, we start looking at the big picture, we start looking at what it costs to just run a town and then add these projects in. We will not know our preliminary ad valorem tax revenue until June 1st. We will not have the final prediction number until July 1st. So we will not be able to complete the budget until July, but we will be able to start to frame it out between now and once we have that June 1st number. We will be coming back to you in June, late June, early July with a proposed budget, or at least a budget workshop to have this discussion again. And if you recall, we did that last year, kind of horse trading on some projects, and we laid out to you what it will look like. So what we do today will lead to that next opportunity to discuss the budget. I also took a little opportunity with this worksheet, and I've changed fiscal responsibility to fiscal and operational responsibility. I think that's something we can all agree on. It's not just about watching our numbers, but being efficient in how we do our operations. So I think that would be a better way to present that strategic priority going forward. I just wanted to point out that nuance. So I'll hand it back to you, Mayor, and let you lead the discussion, and we'll be here to take notes as well as give feedback. It is more of us at the table than usual. So of course, Matt, our town attorney, is here, and Jackie, our town clerk, but also making a special appearance is Yvonne, our finance director, and Brian sitting up here as well. And they are all available to give feedback. If you have any specific questions for them, feel free to engage with them as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Good summary. I do have one question before we get started. The resilience plan, from the grant that we've had, we're still looking at a September, a readout on that as far as an ending, that they'll give us their results.
That's when we hope for it to be done, and that's an accelerated schedule. However, within the next, we are in April now, so by late May, early June, we will have the vulnerability assessment complete, which will tell us what our vulnerabilities are. And then following that, over the next couple months, will be the adaptation plan. So in September, it won't be a surprise to us. That's when the report will be complete, but we do not know what the vulnerability assessment is really what's going to lead us to looking for grants and what grants to start looking for. And I've already tasked our consultant, Kelly, who's also here in the room, with starting to just identify large categories, buckets of grant opportunities, not just at the DEP in the state, but where else we can start looking for grants. But we're not restricted to September. We'll have a great idea before then.
But it's hard to apply for some of those grants without the resiliency study completed.
Correct. Those grants generally are due in the month of September, so that's why we're targeting it. So we'll be ready to submit on it with it, not the final plan, but a draft plan.
Okay, yeah, because September, that's basically already got us into the next fiscal year by the time we would see that, so it's gonna be hard to try to incorporate any of that into this year's upcoming budget. That's one of the reasons I was curious. Like I said, it's tough to go forward. Okay,
If I can, so my thought is, just like with the drone this past year, we knew we could go after it. We didn't know we would have it. So we budgeted for the drone with the understanding we would have grant revenue. We also had the understanding from the commission at one of our workshops, we're not buying a drone. But if we get the grants, we can get a drone. So that's how I envision, just to use a concrete example, that's how I envision this going forward. Once we have the vulnerability assessment, we'll be able to kind of predict what kind of grants we'll be going after.
Could I follow
Yeah.
up with beach resiliency? Heidi, do we feel with what's happening, the discussions at the Jupiter Inlet District, and as far as the sand, what they're considering doing, and the effects of us adding sand, getting into the inlet, do you think that's gonna cloud the waters at all for When September rolls around, we get that report, are they taking that into consideration or?
So our resilience action plan isn't really a beach management plan, and that's gonna, I already know that's gonna be one of the recommendations that come out of the grant, and that's definitely something we're gonna wanna pursue as a grant to do a BMP, a beach management plan, and I think it's in the list here. Whether Jupiter Inlet District changes their course of where the sand can go, I don't think that's a near term outcome. They're pretty tied to what their what their inlet management plan says, which is what everything needs to go down drift. You saw that information that I received last week from their workshop, or their board meeting, which I thought was just fascinating, that this gentleman who attends their meetings was basically saying the sand's coming from Jupiter Island or Coral Cove and going straight out to the sandbar out there, and it's kind of bypassing us. And if you think about it, our beach never seems to really grow. We take advantage of low tide, but we're not growing as much. So his theory of it bypassing us because of the jetty being extended and the way the currents are going is very interesting to me. But is that going to turn around in 4 months, a different result now?
Thank you.
Mark, you look like you,
Just a, I don't know, it's,
You should be on,
no, it is on.
turned it off.
Is it green?
You want to hold it till it turns green, as you see, we have to move around.
Okay, there it is, great.
Yeah.
It's green now. A couple comments on where you started, which was the budget and how 3 of the 11 properties are homesteaded, the other 8 are not, at least currently. And we'll know June what that, so you can safely assume that the ad valorem estimate is going to increase from last year, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so that would be beneficial for the town, depending upon how we decide we'd like to use those funds. If it's for kind of a rainy day fund, which would be the direction I would head with that, and maybe you can look at lowering the millage rate a little bit, but the town does need to have available funds should something happen from a storm event. And I think we're woefully underfunded in that regard. Then the second thing was the resiliency plan. I think if we know what that plan is gonna say, and we generally, you just mentioned one, the other one's gonna be the road, raising lighthouse. And there's probably a couple more that we know, maybe hardening of town hall. It just went out. Maybe it's hardening of town hall, whatever. But we have an intern that's supposed to start soon.
May 15th.
And so would it be prudent to, if we know those 3 things, to work, have that intern work with you and Kelly,
Whomever you decide, to start preparing the grant applications now. So that they're in
for maybe next year's kind of grant cycle, so we won't have to wait till fiscal year 27 and 28.
I don't see them, I don't see that we have to wait. Generally, in the state of Florida, the grant cycle opens about 2 months before the grants due. It's a very short window. So using the resilience action plan as an example, they were looking at it before I started here. Bob Beckman had been looking at it, starting to work on it. I started August 14th, and I think we had our application in by the deadline, which was sometime during the first week of September. So we'll know more when the state budget is funded, what grant programs will be funded. That's where it starts. So we should know that hopefully within the next 30 days, if the budget's approved, but they have until June 30 to approve the budget. And then the programs, and then we'll know. And the programs don't really change that much year over year. So we'll be ready to go with this fiscal year. And I was using the drone as that example as well.
So one thing that I saw in here, fiscal and operational responsibility, I don't know if we can build into that grant funding. I guess it would go through there in terms of, kind of a strategic priority as we go into exit this year, going next year. I think that should be added as kind of a priority for the town.
Yeah.
I mean, the real basis of today's meeting is to provide you that feedback off of this list and have the commissioner do that. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, I would like, and if the other commissioners agree, I would like to have that added under fiscal and operational responsibility.
And that makes sense, Mark. We do want to be leaning forward as much as we possibly can.
I do have that also. I think we're all on the same page and I understand what the commissioner is saying, but I do also have that under, I just want to point it out, under beach resiliency, coastal engineer planning and grant services,
We paid for that.
no.
No.
Well, in the past, we did not. The firm that was awarded the grant did help us with reviewing our grant application. I would like to, I'm suggesting perhaps engaging with them for a few dollars to help us also with grants as well due to their large net. But that, you know, these are all recommendations until we know what we can accommodate in the budget. We don't know what's staying in, but it's the same idea of what you said. Yep.
Okay,
I mean, I don't have anything else to be added, so that was really good.
all right. Ben, do you have anything that you specifically were?
No, I'm just looking at
Copyright.
the portable speed and traffic calming. I don't know what the cost, I think what that is, but.
Do you want to talk about that, Chief?
Sure, since coming in, I've had a lot of people discussing issues with speeding, other things in the community. One of the things we would like to look into, the portable speed sign is generally around $5,000. Sometimes there is grant funding that can help with that purchase. Traffic calming, we're looking at like movable speed humps or something that could slow down, we could use in special events. Or if we're identifying problem areas, we could put in temporarily to change habits or behavior.
What I find that changes habits and behavior are tickets.
So we have stepped up our enforcement as well. So we have been doing more stops. You know, a lot of the issues we've seen are with some of our residents. So we're trying to be courteous and get them in line, but just ways that we can approach it to kind of collect data, figure out where our problem points are, and then the speed signs to do that. They would give us a report. We would know the times that we need to be out enforcing things of that nature. And these are movable. They can be moved around the community to help address problems.
So if I can share some more information on that, the chief and I were talking about this, and this is what really differentiates us from a bigger town, a town with a commercial corridor. In most cities, there's a period the state does called click it or ticket. And you stop people for not wearing their seatbelts. And it's kind of a challenge. And based on how many seatbelt violations you hand out is the amount, think of it as Chuck E. Cheese when the kids were little, right? You get as many tickets to go and then buy equipment. So most cities who have speed trailers or even that like slow down, construction ahead, flashing sign comes from the click it or ticket program. The chief and I both agree we're not going to do click it or ticket here. That's not good for job security for either of us. But so if you say, oh, all the other towns or my friend in another town said they got a grant for it, that's how those grants come about generally. And we're looking to just fund it.
I think we used to have one of those electronic signs. I don't know if anybody else, Chip, maybe using your.
It was borrowed to question.
Borrowed, okay. I was gonna say maybe it was sitting in our storage facility somewhere. All right, Dave? No? Anna?
So I did have,
Can you bring your microphone? Thanks.
I did have an idea under public safety, if the commission might be interested in looking into lighting along some of the walkways in the neighborhood. It's very dark, and I know like during the holidays when people have their lights up and things, it's much more pleasant to walk between Colony and Ocean on the south side, and then on the north side, the area between Shelter all the way down to Lighthouse is pretty much pitch black at night. And I know the dog walkers, some of them will have their flashlights, but many of them will not. So I was wondering if you all might be interested in looking into doing something like that. It would have to be low lighting. I don't think it should be as bright as park is. The park is pretty well lit in the evenings. But I thought that could be something nice that would be a good safety device for our town and also make it more pleasant for those that walk.
I mean, is this for the walkways?
Exactly.
Self-walk?
Right.
No objection.
Oh, that sounds good. Anything else? No. From my perspective, but one of the things that I'm not sure how we would fall in here from a fiscal aspect is I think we've got our ordinances are all up to speed, or not up to speed, I should say, and our code, our charter is. And I think it's time for us to basically take that on. And I know you, Dan, you're instrumental in our charter side of the house.
Yeah. Probably a little more cleanup on the charter as well, but I know they got zoning code updates. Is that what you were putting there?
No, what the mayor's referring to is starting at chapter 1 of the Code of Ordinances and working our way all the way down, which has to happen. So many ordinances refer to, it's up to the mayor to do this, which conflicts with our,
Yeah.
some things are in our Code of Ordinances that should really be in the zoning code. So there's a lot of conflict. So that where this would come into play, and the mayor and I spoke about this during our agenda review, would be, we need to take that into consideration for the town attorney's fee this year. It might look a little higher because it's a little more work for him to start doing that, you know. Fortunately, you know, I can do some of it, but he would have to do the final review of everything. I don't think it will take us many years. But I think we can chip away at it like a chapter a month or something like that, but we have to make sure that Wysirota is compensated for this work. And that's where it would come in during this discussion.
Yeah. Well, Matt, you could give us a good budget though, right? You could estimate, yeah.
Yeah, and I know Heidi and I have talked about other things where, you know, if it might be something that's a bit higher fees, that, you know, maybe once we get to a certain level, you know, we can then have a discussion once we get to that point, but yeah, talk to Heidi.
It's kind of like how Yvonne and I are doing with the different policies related to finance, just chipping away at them, but this is a huge undertaking because some of those chapters will need to be repealed and reconstituted. It won't be just a strike through, and it's probably almost easier, I think. To do a repeal.
Yeah, I think for a lot of reasons, it's easier to do it just sort of all at once, rather than do it piecemeal, and then 5 years later, it just doesn't match up, and it just works better to just wipe the slate clean and do it all at once.
We're talking zoning code too?
The zoning code needs to be updated because it doesn't reflect, best practices, modern practices, and also there have been so many changes this year and the past year at the Florida legislature related to the code. That is something that Chen Moore would take on, and then, and we'll get a price from them. And then again, Wysirota would have to approve it they have an amazing zoning specialist that she does all of our continuing eds in the planning world. So they would also be involved, but so his firm for that fee, but it would be Chen Moore would really tackle it from the beginning. And I have a lot of notes from when I started and we did that workshop. So it's really just, we were ready to go this year, and then the legislator just had so many out there that were scary to small towns, planning and zoning boards, all of that. So we had to get through this session. And the governor still hasn't signed everything yet.
I don't know how much time you've been able to spend in our ordinances yet. I know we've done a little work on it.
Yeah.
Do you think a chapter a month would be viable?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone through and read through the whole
I'm not
thing,
gonna
but
hold you to it. You're right, you're right.
yeah, I mean, we can certainly, Heidi and I can certainly work through it and get it done in a reasonable time period.
Okay, I like that reasonable time period. Good. Sooner the better, from my perspective. Get us caught up for 2 years behind, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
I think the zoning, you're gonna have a lot of residents are gonna have an opinion, so that if you're gonna have work in some change management there, or make sure there's some
Absolutely.
visibility.
Oh, we will definitely, with a zoning code that impacts how people live day to day or can redevelop their properties, we'll do workshops again. We did that initial workshop when I first started, where we got feedback. I have all my notes. I have like a red line actually, kind of halfway through, but then when the legislator started, I backed out, and I told the B and Z committee that I said, we're gonna take a pause because we don't know what's starting to happen. This was around October, November. But we would definitely workshop that publicly, as well. And I don't think it's extreme to height, mass, or anything like that. It's just, using the word piecemeal, our zoning code has been piecemealed over the years, and it's very hard to follow. And we're just building homes. It needs to be much simpler. People need to have one chart in the zoning code telling them exactly what they can do. It shouldn't take three of us in the office and a call to the planner and then a call to Matt to answer what lot coverage can be on a specific lot because it's funny shaped, you know, it's just not necessary.
Right.
As former members of the B and Z, I'm sure you appreciate that comment.
Or builders.
Yeah, and builders.
Obviously, Mark, you mentioned that, the aspect of not having enough money in case we needed it in an emergency, and I'm thinking we also need to probably do a little bumping up in our reserve section. So that's gonna have to be something else from, the fiscal aspect.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last year and I just said it earlier, I mean, we're woefully underfunded.
Right.
If there is ever a storm event and infrastructure is damaged, we just don't have the money. Again, when we have to hire, she's got it on the next agenda, we have to hire somebody, we have to pay that vendor to come here and clear our roads and take away debris. And it could be 18 months to 2 to 3 years to get reimbursement from FEMA. So I'm an advocate of what if we have a millage rate in 5.6 mils, whatever it is. And we've got a surplus at the end of the fiscal year, those funds go into a contingency fund. To fund the government should something happen.
Yvonne, I don't know if you know the number off the top of your head, but this fiscal year that we just finished, we ended in a very nice position.
Just over 800,000.
Over 800,000. We are currently doing our financial statement audit. So they will confirm that for us and we'll officially have that number for you.
That's building.
But yeah, right, about 500 of that is building, which brings me to another thing I want to talk about tonight. Yeah, thank you. So, you know, we were able to put the rule of thumb, we've talked about this before by the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, is have 3 months in reserve. When you're an island on an inlet with only single family homes, with 2 bridges that may or may not get you here, 3 months of operating supplies is not the contingency that we need. And our goal is to have at least 1 year eventually, but at least to get to 6 months and keep building that. And that looks like a $3 to $4 million reserve. So every time we can do that, we need to build on it. We're about 1.2-ish right now. So we're getting there, but we have to be efficient.
So, right.
And that will be the hard discussion that we have when we know our real numbers, as the commissioner referenced, when we know our real ad valorem income, do we lower the millage rate or do we bite the bullet 1 more year? It's hard to predict that and I can't make promises or suggestions right now until we know what that looks like.
We'll have 2 public hearings on the budget and we make decisions in the public with regards to.
Absolutely, and at least 1 or 2 workshops as well.
Good. I know I surprised a whole lot of folks. I think it was last meeting when I commented about a recreation center. I should have used the term community center. We're talking about trying to be fiscally responsible, so we're not looking for anything big. Obviously, we were gonna, and I jumped that out there last time because that lot happened to be on the market. You know, my light bulb hadn't gone on early enough in that process. Would have been fun if I didn't jump into it while they were still early in their deciding factor. They were gonna try to sell it or not. Talking to the family later, I found out that, oh, yeah, they probably would have been very interested in having that communal center for the town. So I would like to see if maybe there would be a way to start some sort of other pot of reserves or something where we could look towards the future, something presented itself in the marketplace here that we would have the capability to jump in.
So we didn't plan this, but kind of doesn't achieve exactly what you're looking for, especially with waterfront property. But one of the things that we budgeted for in this current fiscal year's budget was to do a study of town hall. We've done a broad, now this is a site of a space planning study. It's not architectural or a contractor's estimate that is in front of you, and I want to be very clear on that. But what has just been handed out to you is the final product that we received after meeting with them. And if you go to page 3, it shows what it would look like if, in the town hall, setup. And part of that idea was to maximize our space so we can have town commission meetings there. I've shared with you all, it takes about a total of about 3 hours out of our day between setting up here and then breaking down, staff going home late because of everything being portable here. And it's not the best use of space that we have right now. It does still look like a house. It functions like a house, and there's amenities there we don't need as a town hall. If you go to the next page, the final page, you can see that we had them also design what it could look like when it's not set up for a commission meeting with tables and people can use it kind of as a community center. The idea of this is that we would isolate building department functions up front, as well as do improvements around the town hall, including commercial grade doors, floors, clean up the systems. The estimate for the project is about $600,000. And again, this is a space planning estimate that includes redoing all the floors in town hall, new furniture, so FF&E that we call in the development world. The good news is it is about 60% of building department function when you take into consideration storage areas as well as the B and Z. You can see we cut the public meeting space kind of in half. That's that diagonal line. Everything in peach or pink, depending on how you see it, is for building department functions. 60% of that amount would be in the $350,000-$60,000 range, which we do currently have in our building department reserve. So the town would only be responsible for about 40% of the rest of the money to get this work done. And if this is something that you have an appetite for, we would like to include it at least in the upcoming budget discussions. It allows us to make the town hall more hardened, more efficient. There are grants out there for the hardening of public facilities. They're not always easy to get. They are through FEMA. Generally, it's for bigger buildings, but there may be items that we might be able to use a grant for to get some of this work done. Very little change takes place in the police department, so that limits our funding over there. One of the things we would do is convert the current town clerk's office so that it faces to the patrol room. It gives our officers another room and further secures our IT infrastructure. We would move the town clerk's office so it faces the main area. And we would also create an entry foyer by closing in the entrance area and putting the building reception up there. It also provides a little more security. Not that we're looking to close down town hall to the public, but we work in a time where safety is a concern, and this would just allow us a little more safety in town hall. I can meet more one-on-one with each of you if you want to go through the plans, but this is just generally to give you an idea and see if there's an appetite with budgeting for this. So it would be about $260,000, $250,000 in the budget this coming year for the work.
You said hardening, what would that entail? What would be the process to harden the building?
So we want to make sure that all of our HVAC systems are newer, energy efficient. We want to make sure all of our windows actually are impact resistant. Our roof is properly tied down in the rafters. The generator is right sized for the building, which I'm not sure it is.
Is it CBS?
It is and it isn't. There are some areas that is where our fireplace is actually like an add-on in wood on the outside because we had some dry rot earlier this year that we had to stucco. This plan, looks to move out those storage areas and make them as part of the structure. Those are old patio areas out there. So it'd be bringing the floor up a few inches and making it, yeah, concrete block on the back, yeah. So this is not a structural, it's hard for me to answer exactly what needs to be hardened because this is not a structural study. You know, they poked their heads in the ceiling, they did a good job, but they certainly don't know where our weaknesses are in the building.
Then that could also then lead this to be an underestimation as far as the overall costing.
It could. They're pretty generous, I think in their notes, they talk about it. The only thing that they did not include is the contingency, which is something we should always include in any project, which is 10 to 15%.
I like the vision up between the building side of the house and town, so that does help alleviate or make a way to do some of that internally.
Correct.
Anybody have any other?
So you're asking for this to be placed on the list?
Yes,
Yeah, it's in the public infrastructure portion right there. That top right block.
doesn't necessarily mean it will make the final cut, but that we consider it as we start to build out the budget.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that we probably, I don't know, maybe we can use this space forever, but I'm not sure. Potentially an option, you know, forever is a very long time. And it's clear that the current building doesn't, and is not laid out in a way that utilizes the space 100%. So I'm generally in alignment to add it. I think it would be good, and obviously, we're gonna ask the residents what they think too, and to your point, 60% of it's gonna be funded from non-ad valorem tax dollars by people who are coming in here paying current, so that's fine. But there still is probably another $300,000 that would be funded from the ad valorem taxes. So I'm fine directionally adding it and kind of letting the residents know this is something that we're looking to do and we want some additional public input. I guess I would want, you know, the additional study from the architect and or engineer to see what elements of the space would be hardened so that we can have a better idea that the funds that we're expending will really add to the useful life of the facility and could be, I mean, this is, I know there's a lot of variables that go into this, but could survive like a category 2 or 3 storm, right? That it's gonna actually, the money for good, and right now it doesn't, and it won't, right? So that's kind of the direction that I would be looking to get some more information on, like not just spending money to spend money, but really spend money to harden the facility so that it will last another useful lifespan of 25 years and will sustain a category 3 storm, something like that.
Absolutely, any investment we make would have to be that. And look, I'm not a structural engineer, but I can tell you last week that wind sitting in my office, I either thought we had rodents or the roof was gonna fly off. I mean, you just hear the crick and the creak. It's an older home, right? So you hear the building expanding during that. So it's definitely. It's not rodents, because it happened when I first started here and they had someone come out, for the record, it's not rodents.
Away from you pretty quickly, right? I mean, okay, you need to add additional tie down, but the joists are way undersized. So now we're talking
Right,
about
right.
something way bigger than what we
Yeah.
thought. So those are things that we need to go in eyes wide open. That's why I want to see some additional due diligence done.
Absolutely.
So that we can see what it is.
But at the same point, there's also cost of repair, right? If we don't do this, we don't take some additional action. So I think I would include that as well. Because also that helps balance it out. Like we can do the hardening, or if we don't, then we've got these continuing fees.
Or not being standing out or storm.
Yeah. And a better AV system.
I was gonna say, would there be energy efficiencies that they could build into this?
Absolutely, it would not have to be, but we would I mean, that's what we're looking for, you know, we have a building that has, 4 split systems, I think, AC systems, so like window boxes, basically different areas, plus our AC systems for the entire building, but it's not pushing out to the entire building, so, you know, long term, you know, we would see costs go down. Mayor, I'd like to point out another thing on our list, which is at the top of fiscal and operational responsibility, and that's looking at perhaps doing a non-ad valorem assessment and impact fee study. This would also prepare us if property taxes either are eliminated or cut severely. And identifies other places where how we could fund local government. But it also looks at adding impact fees perhaps, and everything's just, you know, an opportunity to see what's out there for new development. And when I talk about new development, if we think about all the large trucks that come into the community, they impact our roads. When a larger house is being built, double in size than what's on the lot now, it is impacting our stormwater system. So this study would look at all of the different fees we could charge for new development or substantial development, as well as other ways we can collect income through assessments.
Do you have a forecast, what you'd be expecting to see out of a study like that as far as like a dollar amount?
From the research that I've done, and most everyone who's done it is a larger city, including the cities I've been involved in, when we've done it, would be in that $50,000 to $75,000 range, but I'm thinking we would be
You mean for the study?
for the study.
Okay.
And that's,
I was actually aiming at the other side of the equation, what we would get as a benefit out of the study.
I don't know what that number would look like until they look at everything. These are specialists. They usually work in engineering firms that specialize in taxation. And Florida statute's pretty tight on what you can and cannot do fees for. So I can't predict what would come out of it.
I guess one of the things I'm looking at is, I can see how this study would be beneficial if we're looking at a municipality that had a lot of commercial type of activity within it. When we're just talking residential, I'm wondering where you'd be able to go to squeeze to get that nice result.
So it would be like a percentage of the valuation of the project would go into a road impact fee fund or a separate stormwater impact fee fund. Public spaces impact fee fund. Because if we think about some of the homes that are being built right now, we know they're being built for larger families. And those larger families have impacts on our infrastructure. So that's where it could go to the residential.
Are there any communities nearby that do these?
Everyone does it. Jupiter's actually having a conversation right now about their fire assessment. Every community does an impact fee. We have a couple impact fees in our code of ordinances right now. They're related to the county and commercial development. I don't know how they ended up in our code. That's kind of what we're talking about, the cleanup of our code. But most communities do have impact fees for new construction, be it a new home, more than 50% in either square footage or valuation addition on a home, as well as commercial properties. But impact fees do exist for residential properties in those communities.
And essentially what it is, it's a fee to new homeowners for their cost of impact to the community. And right now, outside of paying building permit fee, new homeowners get a free ride on our infrastructure, on existing residents' time. And this is to offset some of that and diversify some of our income stream away from ad taxes, so that people that pay for the people that have the impact pay for that impact.
Yes, and speaking of building permit fees, a law was just passed, House Bill 399 at the Florida legislature, which limits how much we can charge for impact fee. Building permit fees. And it specifically says you cannot charge for a percentage anymore like we do. We charge 3% for every building permit.
Again, I'm fine with leaving this on. I think it's something that we should look at. It's just a function of what is it gonna cost, what the time frame is, and what the revenue associated with that change. And you'll have all that information at time of budget, so that we can make a decision.
Absolutely, I just won't be able, I wanted to set their expectations, I won't be able to predict the revenue that we would get off it. But I will be able to point out what other communities collect.
But you could go back
Exactly.
the last 3 years.
Right.
And say, okay, we added this amount on assessed valuations through permitting, through the building permit fees. What would have been? But we could look at that.
Absolutely, I can use
Yeah.
Questa or Jupiter's formula against our historical numbers.
Yeah.
I can use someone else's
Yeah,
formula,
just
you know,
have-
that makes state statute. I just don't wanna mislead. Because it is very controlled at the state level what we can charge.
Right.
But I do think it was one of the things. I'm here now 18, 19, 20 months, believe it or not, and it's one of the impact of the amount of trucks that come in with new construction is one of the things that hit me most when I first came here. And then when I found out that we don't have an impact fee, all I kept saying is the roads, the roads, the roads.
Everyone walks, a lot of people walk, you see the construction traffic parking on our roads, damaging our roads out front of every single family home being constructed.
So then that is what would fund our repairs. Hypothetically.
Right.
That's what will fund our jetting out of the stormwater system.
Walkways.
The walkways is our parks, and that's something you're gonna see in our budgets going forward, is that we're gonna be using the language that is typically used in a municipality. Those are our public spaces, those are our parks, and there will be a park recreation fee. You know, not unlike other communities, or there could be, I'm just saying, this is the function of local government. And this is on new development, not existing.
Okay. And obviously, impact fees it's not an issue from a permit perspective, so therefore that would be something that we would be able to use wherever we needed it as opposed to.
No, they would be specific, so say hypothetically, we approve a stormwater, road, and public spaces impact fees for all new construction. If that money would specifically go into each budget or each bucket. It's not gonna be a lot of money, but over time, if we have this consistent turnaround of 5 homes pretty much under major construction, in 3-4 years, when we need to do another jetting of the stormwater system, we'll have enough money to cover it that way.
Yeah, sounds good. It'd be good to see that 3-year, that's, I think it's a good target, 3-year. Yeah. Anybody else?
Good. Unless the town manager wants to add anything else.
Those were the big ones that I wanted to highlight, different things that are different, introducing into the community, some general best practices. I think, Chief, we kind of hit that was the one we talked about that would most likely come up, the speed controls, so I don't think there's really anything there. Oh, why don't you talk about the first one on the list? I'm most excited about that.
Well, we're looking at bringing back the bike program. Austin has volunteered to do bike patrol while he's on shift. Our new hire, Austin. And
He said John. Put training wheels on.
But I'm trained, I can use the bike as well to get out in the community and say hi to people. I've had a lot of people approach me since coming in, and they've expressed concern that our officers are hard to talk to because they're in the vehicles. Windows are rolled up because it's hot outside. They'd like to have an opportunity to have a conversation. And I think bringing a bike into the town does that. It makes us more accessible, easier to flag down. We can hear when people are calling to us. So I think an e-bike is the perfect solution to that, just because you're not destroying yourself pedaling in the heat. It's kind of assisting you while you're moving along. And the breeze, everything here that we have on a consistent basis, I don't think would be an issue for any of our officers that are interested in doing the training. On top of that, it would be good for nighttime patrol if we need to go up to something quietly or to check on something. It allows us to wait to do it discreetly, and that's also can be good for police use. But in terms of the program itself, I think it would be a benefit to the community, and I'd be happy to bring that, you know, to Jupiter Inlet Colony moving forward here.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
All right, to adjourn.
Thank you.
So if those online can just, hang on, we're gonna have to end this meeting and you will need to log back in.
Meeting adjourned. You.